back to my channel. If you are watching this video, there is a good chance that you are probably shipping your dog to Hawaii. And you're probably freaking out like I did, which is okay. Don't freak out. You'll get through it. No, but in all seriousness, I'm making this video because, as some of you guys may know, my husband and I recently PCSed to Hawaii. This is our second time coming back here, and we do have a dog that we shipped here. And since then, I have had multiple people reach out to me and they're like, please do a video of how you shipped your dog to Hawaii. I am freaking out and I don't know what to do. And I'm here to say, please don't freak out. I mean, you can freak out. I freaked out. But it's not as hard as the door cracked. And I was like, hello? It's not as hard as you think it's going to be, but it is stressful because putting your loved little fur baby on a plane it can be a stressful thing. So I'm here to help you guys out. I'm here to explain kind of like the process and what we did on our end. Not every situation is the same, but every situation is kind of the same. And that's because it depends on the size of your dog, the airlines you go on, where you're flying out of. So there are little things that are gonna be different, but for the most part, like paperwork wise, it's all pretty similar. By the way, you guys, I have a new outfit and I absolutely am obsessed with it. But you can't see me. So it looks like I'm wearing a dress, but wait. It's like pants! And it's got pockets! Oh my gosh, I'm such a freak! Ooh, I got it at swap meet last weekend and it was pretty affordable. Now I want like one in every single color. It's so flowy and it's like perfect for summertime. I also have some friends in here with me. I have Chance down below, he's staring at me, and then I am doing doggy daycare with 8 little puppers, but they're both sleeping right now, so there might be some snoring, hopefully not. And maybe at the end of the video, I'll introduce you to my little friend. Okay, I had to get my list. I woke him up. It's okay, buddy, go back to sleep. Put your tongue back in your mouth. Ooh, crusty tongue. I wish you guys could see him right now. He's the cutest little thing. Okay, so like my last video when I was talking about how we PCSed here, I made another list. This one is twice as long because there's 2 pages. So I'm just gonna go through it. Actually, everything that I talk about, I'm gonna have linked below. There is actually a checklist that you guys can print off or download that literally tells you step by step what to do to get your dog ready to get on an airplane. I know there's like a bunch of Facebook pages too. There's PCSing to Hawaii with pets. Honestly, if you look at the checklist and just follow the directions, it's not that hard. I think a lot of people just like get really stressed out, which I get it, I understand. A lot of this information I'm pretty much just gonna be reading off of that checklist. So first things first is figure out if you're going to Hawaii or not. Once you figure out you're going to Hawaii or not, regardless of the dates, like even if you have soft orders or you're thinking you're going around this month, I would just get on it as far as like getting your pets ready. The first thing that you are gonna wanna do is make sure that your pet, I'm just saying pet because people have cats and dogs and I don't know what else you can ship here. Birds? Hamsters maybe? I don't know. Fish? I'm just gonna say pets though. When I say pets though, I'm primarily thinking of cats and dogs, so I don't know about like other specific types of animals. That is not this video. All right, make sure that they are microchipped and make sure that the microchip works if they are already microchipped. If it does not work or you do not have one, get on that ASAP because in order to do everything else, you will need a microchip. In order to fly them over, they will need to be microchipped. So it also said on the checklist that if they are microchipped but the microchip ID doesn't work, they are going to have to stay in the quarantine facility. So just make sure it works to avoid all that because the information I'm going to be sharing with you guys is primarily for direct release. So as soon as they land, you can come pick them up same day. So that's what we did with Chance. Okay, the next thing that you're going to want to do is get their rabies vaccine and make sure those are up to date. In order for them to fly, they need to have 2 rabies shots within their lifetime. Now, don't quote me on this, but I've heard that you can do this. So in order to fly, they need to have the most recent rabies, and then you can also have a second rabies, certificate or whatnot. It doesn't have to be like the last one that they got like prior to the most recent one. I've heard that you can just get you can bring any other rabies certificate within their lifetime. I have saved all of Chance's certificates, so I just used the 2 recent ones and make sure that they are original copies in blue ink. So yeah, make sure that they have been vaccinated twice within their lifetime. This is very important if you have puppies. I know puppies can be a little bit different because it's like I was reading something that says for puppies, the rabies shots have to be more than 30 days apart and something within like 6 months or after 6 months or something like that. So if you do have a puppy and they aren't like up to date on both vaccines yet, you might have to prolong them flying until they get that done. So if you think that you're going to be going to Hawaii anytime soon, don't get a puppy. Wait till you get to the islands and adopt one. It'll save you the headache. When you are getting the rabies vaccine, this is like fine if they have already been vaccinated, and like when you guys fly out, they will still be within like the window of being vaccinated. You don't have to worry about any of this. But if they need to get another rabies vaccine, it does have to be 30 days or prior, like 30 days or more before they fly out. Otherwise, if you get it done like within the 30 days of you flying, they will have to be at the quarantine facility until they hit the 30-day mark. So say they got vaccinated and you guys are flying out in like 26 days, they will have to stay at the quarantine facility for 4 days until they hit that 30-day mark, and then they can be released, which that will start adding up more money, by the way, because you do have to pay for them to stay there. Lastly, the vaccine certificate form. I've heard mixed things about the ink not mattering like what color it is, but I've also heard that it does. So I would just like make sure that when your vet signs it, just be like, hey, can you sign it in blue ink? All of ours are signed in blue ink and we didn't have an issue. So I don't know what the deal is with the blue ink, but just ask for blue ink. And everything that I've mentioned already, if you already have it done, like you can skip all this. Like for instance, Chance was up to date and everything on his vaccine, so we didn't have to go through any of this. We just skipped straight to the FAVN test. And I didn't mention this, but in case you guys didn't know, Hawaii is a rabies-free state, and so that's why they are so particular on making sure that they are vaccinated on their rabies and that they have their FAVN test done, which I will mention in a second, because they want to keep this a rabies-free state. So the next thing, which is very, very important, is going to be their FAVN test. This is the rabies antibody test. This is to test your pet's blood to make sure that they do not have any rabies in their system, because if they do and they fail the test, they will not be allowed to come to Hawaii. The FAVN test, it will need to be completed at least 30 days or more before you fly out. I would just get that done as soon as possible, because once you get it done, it lasts for 3 years. I think it's like 48 months or something like that. Like it lasts for about 3 years, so you know you're good on that. And I would get it done ahead of time, because when they send it out to the lab, it can take, I think they told me 4 to 6 weeks. I know when I look on the Hawaiian quarantine facility, they said it could take 1 to 2 months. I think ours took about 4 weeks. I forgot to call for about 6 weeks, but when I called to see if he passed, it was already completed. So that's the next thing, is your vet should call. Sometimes they don't. Our vet never called. So I called them and they were like, oh yeah, he passed. And then I picked up, you know, a copy of his paperwork. Do not call the lab. Just don't call the lab. The lab will notify your vet and then you can contact your vet. Just give it some time. But I would try and get it done as soon as possible, because they got to send out everything. And then, like I said, get a copy of the blood test that says that they passed with the number on it. Make sure their microchip number is on it. I don't know if it's a necessity that you need this paper, but I just wanted to have a physical copy saying, hey, he passed. So secondly, with the FAVN test, is once you find out that they do pass and you get the okay from your vet, you can go on to, I will have everything linked down below so you guys can like go ahead and look, but it is you can check their microchip number on the Hawaii HDOA website. It's a PDF format, and basically you can type in your dog's microchip number, and because it's like 30 plus pages long, so it'll take you forever to like scroll through it. But there's like a section on the PDF format where you can type up their microchip and it'll like go to the page that your animal's on, and you can see that the Hawaii quarantine facility received your dog's FAVN test, and it'll show on there if they passed or failed it. So if they passed it, it'll have like a T, and if they failed, it'll have an F. And you can see like when they were vaccinated last, when it expires and all that, and their microchip. So that's another way to know that like they received the test on Hawaii's end and that it's all cleared and good to go. So once your pet passes the FAVN test, and you can even do this while you're waiting for the results, is you're going to want to send over the import form. The import form is so that the quarantine facility knows that they are receiving an animal and that he can be released to you as well, or she can be released to you. So the form is going to be, and I'll have this link down below as well, this is an AQS-279 form, which is the import form, and you're going to basically fill everything out about your animal, about the owners. You can put you and your spouse down. You're going to like fill the whole thing out. And so basically when you're filling it out, you're going to fill out your personal information. You're going to select the direct release, which is the 185 direct release thing. It'll ask you like if you want to do like a 5-day or less direct release, if you want to do like 120 day in quarantine, like you're going to want to do the direct release. It's just easiest. And as long as you do everything correctly, you can get your animal directly released. Like it's not hard to not get them released to you. It's pretty easy. You are also going to send in with this document the 2 rabies form, the most current one, and a prior one, the original copies. You're gonna mail that all together. It's gonna ask that you can send a check. I should have said this in the beginning. Basically, you have 2 options when you send in the import form and the rabies form. You can mail it ahead of time. If you mail it, you're going to want to mail it 10 days or more. They're going to want, I think, receive it 10 days or more. That way you only have to pay $185. If it arrives within 10 days of you arriving, you're going to have to pay $244. Or if you don't mail the forms and you just hand carry everything and take it to the quarantine facility to pick your animal up, you will have to pay $244. So if you don't want to do that, mail it ahead of time. Do like one night or overnight shipping. That's what I did. I went to the post office and I got the quickest one. That way they also give you like a tracking number and you can see, hey, it arrived there. I would also call just to double check. I was so busy I never even called, but I saw on the tracking thing that it arrived, so I was just like praying that I went to the right person because I was just so busy with so many other things. Some people like to carry the forms with them so that they know they're not getting lost and they don't mind paying the extra fee. If you do not want to do that, make sure you send your forms prior. I think I sent my forms like 30 days before we were gonna fly out, so I only paid the $185. Oh, and I didn't put a check in the form because you're gonna want to send in the import forms and the 2 rabies forms in an envelope, and then they're gonna say like if you want to also put like a cashier's check or something in there to pay the $185. I didn't. You have the option of just paying at the facility when you get there. I think they take like MasterCard and Visa, so I just did that because I wasn't comfortable with sending a check in the mail. So we just paid when we got there. It was super easy and super quick. As far as the import form goes and like filling it out, it'll like ask you for your Hawaii address. A lot of people get confused with this because they're like, I don't have a house yet, I don't have an address. So a lot of people will put their hotel of where they're staying at, and that works as a Hawaii address. When I sent in the paperwork, we hadn't booked our hotel yet, I don't think. So I just put my husband's unit down of where he was gonna be like working here. It was fine. Nobody questioned it. But if you have a hotel, I would just put the hotel since that's where you're gonna be staying. So that's the import form. And I'll have that link down below too. It's super easy to fill out. And yeah, just don't forget to also add the 2 rabies certificates, the original copies, in with that when you mail it. So all 3 of those documents will have to go together. I had to get some water. I got dry mouth from talking so much. Hopefully I'm making sense to you guys and I'm not just like babbling. It's really cut and dry once you like see what you have to do. Alrighty, we are on page 2. The next thing on my list is going to be picking your airlines. I did mention this previously in my last video of PCSing to Hawaii. If you do have a pet, you are going to want to be aware, if you are flying with that animal, you're going to want to pick an airline that best suits that animal of what you guys are going to be flying on. For us, we chose Hawaiian. I feel like that was just the best option for us. The other airline that I would trust, and that's because he's flown before on them, is Alaskan. When we were actually stationed here the first time and we were leaving the island and we were leaving with Chance, he was on Alaska and they did a great job. We just chose Hawaiian because it was the only direct flight out of our last duty station, and I just wanted a straight shoot here so that he would be in the plane for as little as possible. So you're gonna want to pick your airline out. When you do pick your airline out, look at like I went through like every airline. So I looked at Delta, I looked at American, I looked at United, I looked at Alaska, I looked at Hawaiian, and I looked at all the requirements of what they required in order to fly a pet. Some airlines, I don't know if this has changed at all. You're going to want to check their websites if things have changed since COVID on what they allow for animals to fly, because I know like some airlines aren't allowing animals in the cabin. Like for Hawaiian, they weren't allowing animals in the cabin. And I don't know if that was just the specific airport that we were at or if that was just the airline in general. So double check, because if you have a smaller animal and you want to put them in the cabin, I think it is cheaper, possibly. Don't quote me on that. Also check the airlines, because every airline is going to have a different price too. Like I believe Alaskan was $200. But our ticket with Hawaiian was significantly more expensive. And I say that because he flew cargo, and cargo is more expensive. We didn't have an option. So let me back up real quick. There's different options when you're flying your pet. If they're small enough, whether they're cat or dog, and they can go in cabin, that's usually cheaper. The next option is checked bag, which just means that, I'm pretty sure it just means that you take your pet to like where you go to check in the bags and they go in like a checked bag. But with the airport that we were going out of with the airline, I think they just didn't have a big enough like thing to put the dog in with the checked baggage, so they didn't have that as an option. So our only option was to put him through cargo. It's the same thing, it's underneath the plane, it just goes in with the cargo. So, and because of that, it is more expensive, but for us it was like, do we fly with Alaskan and have a cheaper flight, but then we have a layover and he's gonna be in his crate for longer hours, or do we just like foot the bill, pay way more, and just do a straight shoot and have him in his crate for less amount of time? So we just decided to put our dog's needs before our wallets and do that, and I don't regret it at all. I don't. I would much rather have him in his crate and, you know, be in a hot situation a lot less than longer, you know. Because also there's a thing with layovers too, that if they're within a certain amount of hours, they won't let them out of their crate. But if it goes like over 3 or 4 hours, sometimes like you have to go take your pet and like uncheck them and then check them back in, and it's a hassle. So I try to avoid that. And it's like if they're like right under that mark where you can't pick them up, then they're sitting in their crate for like 2-3 hours and you don't know if their water has spilled and they're out of water or they're out of food or they've like, you know, pissed or crapped on themselves. Like it's just a lot, you know? Also, very important thing is the heat embargo. During certain months of the year, certain airports will not fly dogs because it will get super hot, and that's just for their safety. So for us, when we were flying out of Austin, from April 15th to, I think it was like October or something like that, we would have not been able to fly Chance. We would have had to basically drive to LA to drop him off because there's a specific plane that handles, you know, when it gets too hot. So that also helped us determine when we were gonna fly here, because my husband had like a month of when he could report here. So we were like, well, we need to make sure that we fly out before April 15th so that he can get through the heat embargo. Also, when you are picking out an airline, you can call them and ask how far you're allowed to book your pet on your flight in advance. Some airlines will only let you book like 10 days out. Some airlines will let you book 30 days out. Another reason why we chose Hawaiian is because as soon as we had our tickets and our reservation numbers, we could call Hawaiian and book him on that flight. We didn't have to wait till like right before we were about to fly out and hopefully, you know, him get on the flight. Like we paid, we got him on our flight like months in advance and we were good to go. So that was another thing, because I think like American Airlines, you can only book your pet on it like 10 days before you fly out, and I'm like, that is stressful. Like why would they do that? That's not okay. Also check crate requirements. Each airline has like, I mean, for the most part, they're all the same as far as like the crate requirements. Like they have to have a certain amount of inches above their head. In front, they have to be able to like sit and stand and turn around comfortably and whatnot. So you can like measure your dog and everything and just make sure they meet the crate requirements. Some airlines are a lot more lenient than others. So for instance, Chance, he flew in a certain size crate when we were leaving because he was on Alaskan, but with Hawaiian they're a lot more strict. So we had to actually upgrade and he got a huge crate for this flight. So it just really depends on the airlines and their requirements. And then lastly, as far as the airline goes, check breed restrictions, because if you do have a certain type of breed, pretty much no airline will fly them except for Hawaiians. Basically, when I say like breed restrictions, I mean like snub-nosed breed. I just don't know the proper word. So basically like a bulldog, you know, a Frenchie, pit bull, Staffordshire Terriers, like any dog that there's like usually a list on the airlines that they'll tell you, and if your dog falls within that breed, you will not be able to fly them. But Hawaiian Airline flies every single breed, I'm pretty sure. If all else fails, just go with Hawaiian. They're great. They're so great. So I had a great experience with them. Oh, also, this is super important if you want to be able to pick up your dog same day. Oh, you stretching like a big boy. I love when Chance stretches. When you pick your flight, look at the time of arrival, because the quarantine facility is only open for a certain amount of hours, and they have like, I want to say they close at like 4 or something like that. So if your flight arrives after that, sometimes they could be open. I've heard that people will get there at like 10 p.m. and someone will like randomly be there. But if they're closed, you will have to wait and then go back to the airport and pick up your dog the next day, like early in the morning, which they will hold your dog there. They won't like take him to the quarantine facility, but you have to make sure that you're there like first thing in the morning. So I would make sure that you arrive, you know, at a proper time. We landed at like 1 or 1:30, so we were able to pick them up around 2 before they closed. So we didn't have any issues with that. If you do land at night and you're not able to get them, it's not the end of the world. I do believe they let them out potty and whatnot. And they have like, you're supposed to put an extra thing of food on the crate so that in case that happens, they can feed them and whatnot. All right, so at this point, we're gonna be getting close to actually flying out. So you're gonna wanna then get the dogs or the cats' health certificate. within 10 days or less before you fly out. If you go on the Hawaii quarantine facility or quarantine page, they'll say 14 days because that's how long they accept you to, like, if you want to fly into Hawaii. However, most airlines will say 10 days, so I would just do it within 10 days. I usually try to do it like not the day before because we had to fly out. We had to like go into a different town a few days before we flew out. But don't do it like day 9 because if your flight gets canceled or delayed and then you can't fly out for like another couple days, you're gonna have to go back to a vet or find a vet near you or go back to your other vet and you're gonna have to pay for that health certificate all over again. So you're gonna wanna kind of be smart and plan out when you know, have your dog come in for their health certificate. Their health certificate needs to have their, and you can see this all on the checklist as well and all the forms that I'll have linked down below, but it's gonna need to have the most recent rabies vaccine name, the serial number, the booster interval, I don't know about those to be honest, the vaccine date and the expiration date, their microchip. I believe there's a section that's gonna have like your current address of where you're currently living and then the address that you're gonna be at. We just put the hotel that we were staying at. And oh, also make sure that you check the spelling when they do that because they misspelled our hotel name. So you just wanna make sure that everything is correct, the address is correct. Your names, do my names go on it? I don't know. Just make sure everything is correct. So the health certificate, if you can, ask your vet if they can give you 2 original copies where they each sign it in blue ink. So I didn't get 2 original copies. I wish I would have. It was fine, but I would have preferred to have 2 original copies because the airline, when you go to drop off your pet, they're going to want to take one. And then I think that they also, I don't know if they put it in on top of the crate. So when they get to the quarantine facility, like they have that there. Some people say the quarantine facility doesn't like when you don't have one with you and they don't accept the one on the crate. I didn't have one with me because I believe they put one on the crate and they took one. They didn't say anything to me. They were fine because they saw it there. But I would just see if you can get multiple copies of the original. Oh, also at that appointment when they do the health certificate, they're also going to treat your pet for flea and tick. That is also a requirement in order to arrive in Hawaii. I think they gave Chance Bravecto, which is what he already gets, so it was fine. They gave him like the little like chewable one. Also, and this is for the airlines, is you're gonna want to get a letter of acclimation. That just means that the dog is healthy enough and is able to fly. Each airline will have different requirements. You can usually go on there or call someone and it'll tell you like the requirements of what they want to see on the letter of acclimation. It'll just say like, the vet certifies that the dog is healthy enough to fly between these temperatures for this amount of time. They can't be, you know, in their crate at this temperature for longer than this amount of time. It's not super long or complicated. They just have to basically type it out and say they're good to go. As far as like the airlines and when you drop your pet off and all their requirements, each airline is different of when they prefer you to drop your animal off. Some will say 2 hours, some will say 3 hours, some will say 4 hours. For us, because we were sending him through cargo, we had to drop him off like super early before like anything was open because he was being dropped off at a different part of the airport, not like in the airport, so they had to like transport him, so they just had to make sure that he has enough time. Okay, lastly, if you have listened to me this entire video and you're like, I can't do this on my own. No, this is too much for me. I got too much stuff going on. There are companies that will ship your pet for you. In fact, we used a pet shipping company when we left Hawaii because this was our first time and we just didn't know what we were doing. So we ended up going with Island Pet Movers. They were great. Another company that I've heard people use is PCS My Pet. I would talk with them specifically because sometimes they'll do everything for you. Sometimes they'll tell you like, hey, these are the documents that you need to go get, but basically their job is to get you ready, get your dog ready, make sure that everything is good. They'll book your tickets for you, your dog's tickets, not your tickets, but they'll book everything for you. They'll come pick up the dog or you drop them off, and that way you don't have to worry about anything. You can track your pet usually. So if you do want to pay more money for that and you don't want to deal with the hassle of having to like get the tickets and everything and deal with the airlines, that's a good option. I will say that it is harder to get a dog to the island than it is to leave the island because you have to do the FAVN test and there's just more things that you have to do since Hawaii is a rabies-free state. Pretty much when you're leaving the island, you just have to do the health certificates, I think, and a letter of acclimation. Oh, the puppies are just sweeping. They're just little angels. Before I end the video, you guys want to see my little friend, Quincy boy? He's like passed out, man. Chance gets a tiny bit jealous because we have another dog in the home. They get along really well, but he's like, why aren't you talking to me? Let me go get him. Everybody, this is Quincy. He's my little companion. He comes for little doggy daycare every day. He is the sweetest little boy. He just pretty much naps all day. He doesn't do too much. Little sweet baby. He's a sweet baby. He's so sweet. Alrighty, you guys. Well, I'm gonna end the video right here. I hope this helped you out in any way possible. If you guys have any other questions or I missed something by accident, feel free to put something down below. You can find me on Instagram, private message me too. And yeah, I hope this helped you guys out. And I hope you guys, you know, have a smooth transition to Hawaii and enjoy it here and enjoy it with your pups. It's like the best thing ever, having your dogs in paradise. So anyways, if you haven't subscribed already, please sure to do that. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.